Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Richard Graves. I'm going to be talking to man Parrish, as you know, the prolific producer of songs like Hip Hop Bebop, B-Boys Beware, Rama Don't Want You to Be, Two Sisters High Noon, and B-Boys Beware were also by Two Sisters. He's done Watch the Closing Doors by RT. In the Bottle, COD was also produced and made by man Parrish, Raul Rodriguez. Also, he's done numerous scores and things of this nature. He's been a DJ with a successful run in the clubs for 15 years, which I wish I could say. A lot of us wish we could say. I'm going to bring him on, but before I bring Man Parrish on, I want to tell everybody I'm going to put up a link a little later. It's already on my Facebook page. We're doing a fundraiser for Man Parrish. Those of you who watched last week realize that all those, those copies of Boogie Down Bronx and Hip Hop Bebop that we have on Sugar Scoop and Ram's Horn and Imports 12, and even some now on Unidisc. These guys they ripped them off. Just that simple. They ripped them off. The man ended up being homeless on food stamps while they were making millions of dollars on these songs. I mean, these guys, his songs have been licensed for all kinds of films, for Grand Theft Auto, and the man has never got paid for. So those of us who are DJs and producers, we know how that feels, especially those of us in Chicago. A few of us have had the same feeling, just not on that same level of literally millions of copies of a song selling and not getting paid for it. So we're going to do a fundraiser. My goal is $10,000. This money all goes to Man Parrish. None of it goes to me. Those of us who have all these digital copies that you get from wherever you got them from, it's time to pay up. It's the right thing to do. So I'm asking all my DJ friends, when we get off the show, get to the fundraiser on Facebook. It's GoFundMe. I'm going to share the link with you all, and I'm going to be on you guys on it. All you DJs, I know that we suspend together, play his music, break dance to his music, all that stuff. I want you guys to do the right thing. And like I said, if you give $5, you're going to get a digital copy of Hip Hop Bebop from Man Parrish with a thank you email directly from him. And if you donate $20 or more, you're going to get I think 5 different songs: Hip Hop Bebop, Boogie Down Bronx, Don't Want You to Be, B-Boys Beware, and High Noon, I believe, be the ones you get, or we might mix it up a bit. But those copies will be emailed to you with a link, a non-shareable link, where you can open it and download it for your own use on Serato or Rekordbox or whatever it is you're using, so you can get down with the old school songs that are timeless. Those are the ones we can still play, the stuff those guys did back then. So without further ado, let me bring on the man, the legend, Derry Man Parrish.
Hey, how are you? Thank you for that intro, and I'm very humbled by what you're trying to do. Really, honestly, thank you for what you do.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, with we all know the music you did is prolific, and it has inspired generations of electronic music producers. You were doing it back before people respected the art of electronic music. When people didn't think you guys were musicians. I mean, you had Kraftwerk and Georgia Moroder before you, and then we get you guys, John Roby, we get Latin Rascals, all Hashim, all you guys and Art of Noise, who all came up with all these incredible songs. And your songs are timeless. I mean, we still play your songs. People still, I play your song. My kids know Boogie Down Bronx in the words, so. And that's not easy to say.
It's not easy to hear, but thank you so much.
Well, let me say one thing.
It's very humbling. Like I said, I never got paid on these records, and to hear you say that is some form of payment. I mean, it's no BS. It touches me when people do that, because they're being sincere, and it means a lot. I'm not just saying that because it's a camera in front of my face. I'm saying it for real. Thank you.
Well, it's the truth, and I speak for all our DJs. I'm gonna speak for my Aurora breakdancing crew, Street Freeze, back in the day, and the AC Rockers, who are competitors. We got down to your songs, and I'm telling you,
lay down the linoleum.
We laid down the linoleum and cardboard and got down. But like I said, I was talking to some electronic music guys, and we were talking about, I'm not going to speak about anybody specifically, but we were speaking about certain forms of electronic music that came out in the 80s, some of the stuff in Chicago. A lot of it was pretty basic as far as the patterns we used, until we progressed we started with beat tracks and we got all the way up to actual full-blown incredible songs that were composed and arranged in Chicago. While we're in that transition, I believe the year was 86. I was 16, and I would go down to DJ International Records and hang out with Benji Espinosa and Rocky Jones. And one of the things I said, because people were saying we weren't musicians, all of us were DJs, we were just making beats. We throw a little bass line to a beat or something. And I said, guys, I said, if we remember correctly, if we listen to the electronic music that inspired us, like the stuff that Tal Disco and the stuff that you guys did, you guys, the arrangements were incredible. When I listen to Boogie Down Bronx, when I listen to Hip Hop Bebop, the way that you did the music, and then when I talk to you about Hip Hop Bebop, we're like that, ooh, ooh, ooh. And I'm like, and we thought this was just incredible deep, and you're like, yeah, I was just playing. But
well, like I've said it before in your interview and other interviews, I can't read or write music, so by default, I never even thought of it. You bring it to my mind now. I guess I'm an arranger. I mean, I'm a musician, but I guess it's arrangement because I listen to music and I just spit stuff out. And when I write, when I put stuff down on, it used to be tape, now it's a computer. Every time I play it back, I pretend like I didn't hear it before. It's like the first time oh no, I'm bored. Oh, this is just the same thing. It needs to switch it up. So that's where that comes from. It's like I'd lay the stuff down and I step back and I look at it and I try to listen to it like I'm hearing it for the first time. Like, what does this need? This track sucks. And a lot of people's like, oh, it's my track. I can't do any bad. It is what it is. I'm like, no. I listen to it and it's like, oh, it's boring. It's too repetitive. Speaking about tracks, the bass line that's in the intro that you played just now, because I was listening to it, is the exact bass line I'm doing for a new song of my new album.
Wow.
The exact notes. So you could sue me or I could sue you.
No, because that bass line, a song called Goodbye Kiss came out in Chicago. He's go dun, 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 dun. Actually, it came out in Detroit. This Derek Mayer did it. So I've heard that a lot of different songs. So it must come from some big band stuff from back in the day that nobody remembers where they keep pulling that from.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just like all right, that sounds good, yeah.
Well, I know that last week, for those of you who were not watching this, we really talked about music. I urge you to look at part 1 of the interview. We really talked about music. We're going to touch on the music a little bit, and then we're going to talk about some other things regarding Man Parrish's life, other things that we believe are important that people need to hear.
Yeah.
But I have a question. All right. I went to work and some of my DJ friends like, oh my God, you talked to Man Parrish. Ask them what the hell was he thinking when he made Hip Hop Bebop? What was in his head? I mean, of course, we have it in our mind. You were sitting in a lab full of computers and
I was in my mother's house. I had, that was, I think, when I had my loft. I was in a loft on 14th Street and 9th Avenue. I had no electric. I had electric. We put up a wall in front of the electric meter, so when the guy came to read it, he couldn't find the meters because we were too poor to pay for a meter, right? Talk about poor, right? And there was no heat. We would put plastic up. I'd put plastic up around the bed and turn the oven on. I don't know how the hell I didn't die of suffocation, but you had to get through to get through. And in those days, I was doing ambient music, but then with the 808 drum machine, I was doing ambient music with beats. And I was experimenting with beats and rhythms and stuff like that. So Hip Hop Bebop it's not an ambient piece of music with beats, but it came from like that headspace, you know what I mean? And then we bounced, it was an 8-track half-inch. We bounced that up to a 24-track machine. And literally we did a whole track of hey, hey, hey for 5 minutes. Rewind the tape, go to a ho, 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 and then don't stop bebop, don't stop hip hop, whatever we did. Mm-hmm. And then when we mixed it, because there's no verse, no chorus, no song structure like other songs that were popular, we did a whole bunch of different versions of it. Did I lose you here? I'm here.
No, we're here.
Okay.
I can see
all right. I just lost it for a second. We did a whole bunch of, I think we had something like 8 or 9 10-inch reels full of, this one's with the bass, this one's without the bass, this has a hey, this has a ho, this is a hey ho, don't stop, bebop, bebop, and that's how that song was put together. And then the owner of the record company, Raul Rodriguez, who I worked with, spent a weekend on coke and beer with a razor blade and edited it together. And I remember hearing it, and I flipped out, and I said, you can't put that song out, because there was nothing like that. You got to realize there's nothing like that. You can't put that out because there's no chorus, there's no verse. People are going to laugh at me. You know, I'm going to be like the laughing stock. What are you trying to do? That's embarrassing. I had a song called Together Again, and I wanted to have like a pop record, because that's what I thought radio was, because that's what I heard. So no, we're going to put this out. I'm like, no, you can't. We had played it at the Fun House in New York, which is an underground club and street club, and everybody used to bark when they heard a record that they liked. John Jellybean Benitez was the DJ. So we just did a record barking because we thought we were going to play it at the Fun House, and they were going to bark back at the record. We were going to be like, oh, look, they're barking at a record, and that would have been the end of it. You know, little did we know.
Yeah.
And because I never got paid, I never knew how many records I sold, and it wasn't until 10 years later that I realized how big that record was. Because when I got ripped off, I shut down for 10 years, you know, and I didn't care. I was so badly burnt. 85 million records, $1 a record is $85 million that I didn't get. And like I said in the other interviews in yours, the guy bought a Porsche and a plane and expanded his office and brought all these people in. And, you know, I remember going up there literally crying and asking for $500 towards my $900 rent. And he said, I'm going to write you this check once, but don't ever come back. Your royalties come in a year or two. In the meantime, he was like spending money like crazy, you know, bought a private jet, you know, that's how good it was, you know? So anyway, that's what was in my mind. It was kind of an experimental piece of music with beats. It had a bass line that was constant, and that and then everything else kind of was overdubs on the whim.
Well, I'm going to tell you, you know, I usually listen to hip hop bebop probably once or twice a week on my way to work, or when I'm sitting there messing with my
you're
keyboard.
Going to need therapy. I'm not responsible.
I think a lot of us not. And I'm going to say, but when it starts off, doom, doom, doom. I know you used the 808, and a lot of people are using 808.
No, those tom drums, those doom, 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 doom. That's not an 808. That's a Prophet 5 synthesizer.
Oh, okay.
And they had a lame tom sound, and I modified it. See, in those days, the Prophet 5 was the first synthesizer that I had. Very few of them had programming, so you could store a program. But it had a tom sound that was kind of, and then I added some noise, and I changed the envelope. And if you're not a synthesizer guy, you wouldn't understand what I'm saying. But I modified it. And in those days, I came before programmable synthesizers, where you had to take an oscillator and a filter, and you had to turn and tune sounds, and it was like this whole thing that you had to do. And once that sound was there, if you shut it off, it was gone. So I modified that, and that's where you get the doom 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 doom. That's a keyboard. That's the Prophet 5 synthesizer, and we playing that on the on the keyboard.
Wow.
So that's not the 808 or a sample, and we didn't have samples in those days either. And then that was put in we had a plate reverb. It was put in a plate reverb, and for the technical guys, I think there was a gate on the end of the reverb, so the reverb cut off right after the sound stopped. So it was this big, full sound that immediately, once the tom stopped, so did the reverb sound. There was a thing called a noise gate that shut it down really quickly. So since I had no musical training, I didn't care. I just put sounds through anything I could find to see what came out of it. So, you can't turn the knob to 11. You know, I'm like, yeah, why not? I want to turn to 11 and see what happens. You can't put a thing through that thing. I'm like, if it doesn't smoke and blow up, why not? Let's see what it sounds like. So I was very experimental because I didn't have the constraints. I have a friend of mine who does film scores, and he did. He worked on Batman, and he worked on some of the big stuff. Anyway, he said to me, I went to music conservatory, and he says, I wish I was like you. I said, what are you talking about? I can't tell an A from a C from a G. He said, I had to learn rules and regulations, and I can't step out of them. But you go in, and like I said, you turn it up to 11, and I wish I could do that. I wish I had that freedom. So you're much luckier and better than I am, you know?
Well, I think we're all luckier. Oh, sorry. I got my little extra echo. All of us were lucky that you did that because, again, like I said, when we're hearing those claps is rolling, and it's the build-up. So I'm gonna tell you a DJ story. I'm wearing a WBMX shirt. Back in the day, that was our station in Chicago. They played your music. That's how I got introduced to your music. And when we ran out to buy your record, and we bought it on Sugar Scoop or Import
You're
12.
going to give me a swollen head with all this. My God.
Well, when the guys from Hot Mix 5 would come out and they would play it, and we were little DJs. We were trying to be like the Hot Mix 5 guys. So I remember the first party I DJ a little house party, and I played hip hop bebop, and people had heard it on the radio, but they, nobody had the record. So when I play it, and the crowd just loses it, and then I'm like, oh my God, what do I play next? I'm like, what do I
So
play
as
next?
a DJ, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? It's like, that record was too good. How much is that my peak? It's only like, 11 o'clock. Did I just peak? You know what I mean? Like, boy, what am I going to do now? Yeah, I know. Wow. Thank you. Wow.
The thing is with you, like I said, with those hand claps and how it rolled in, that's why your song is timeless, because your stuff was fat and the music. That's why it can still be played with the music's being made today, that people are making on Logic and Pro Tools and all stuff, because it was so fat. There were songs that came out at that time that, I like them. They bring back memories, but I can't just go to a club and bump them because they lack that ambience that you're able to. And I was going to ask you one particular thing. A lot of different songs I heard came out back then, obviously, we liked, but yours always had more bass. How did that happen?
Well, again, sometimes turning it past 11, I had to learn how to engineer, because the engineer who's going to remain nameless, but who will be watching this, the studio that we're in was in the lobby of an apartment building, and he used to go up to the fourth floor and get laid during my sessions because he didn't think that my stuff would. I'm not going to say he didn't think it was that important, but it was so new. It was like, they're just doing that synthesizer stuff. So I'd turn the bass up, and he'd come back down and go, that's a lot of bass. And I said, yeah. He goes, you can't do that, because when you press records, they're grooves. And if the grooves, the deeper the bass, the wider the groove. Like, you think of it as a letter S. And those grooves, if they're too deep, will touch the groove next to it. And your needle will actually jump out of the record because it's hit a jam at that point. The sound groove is touching the next groove that it hasn't gotten around to, and it'll throw the needle out of the groove and make the record skip. And I said, I don't care. Find a way to do it. And they would take, apparently when you make records, you could adjust how wide the grooves are. And I used to drive the mastering guy crazy. He goes, I'm running out of space on these records. I said, I'll go back and edit an extra 30 seconds, minute out of it. I want the bass. And also, a lot of the stuff that I didn't have a lot of signal processing. It went straight from the synthesizer, a lot of times straight into the tape recorder. So it didn't get changed by electronics. A lot of people put stuff in a mixer and then send it to a tape recorder. If the mixer wasn't high quality, it would change the sound. And I kind of knew that early. I don't know why, but I thought if I plug straight into the tape recorder, you're going to hear the synthesizer, not a filtered version or modified version. And what you're hearing is like the actual sounds of these machines. Wow. Rather than the EQ'd. I mean, later on we went and recruited, but you can't put something that's, now you can put stuff that's not there. There are subharmonic synthesizers that'll take a frequency and have it, and you can get it like an octave lower. But back in those days, they didn't have it. So I knew that stuff sounded good, because when I plugged my headphones in, it sounded great. But when I listened to records, it was thin. And a lot of that was because a lot of the mixing boards back then just didn't have the technology, So I put it direct, so those records sound fat.
Wow. Well, they do, and that's why they still endure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that I learned from doing it at home. I recorded at home. My mother's, we're going to talk about it, but I left home at 14, and I wound up actually back home many after Hip Hop Bebop with Boogie Down Bronx was done back at my mom's house in Brooklyn. She'd already passed away. We'll talk about that later. But I just had remembered, plug everything directly in, and that's how you get that fat sound, So,
amazing.
Yeah.
So
the engineer tells the story that Arthur Baker came into the studio. We all recorded at the same studio, Vanguard Studios in New York. And the same engineer worked on mixed my stuff, mixed his stuff. And this engineer told me that Arthur Baker came in and took my album, slammed it down on the mixing desk and said, "How come Man Parrish's album has a lot of bass and sounds better than mine?" Because he records differently than you. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
There was something there to work with. So
amazing. Now the
I
last
want to
question.
apologize to everybody if you see this. I'm hand holding my iPhone, so you know, and
Well,
sipping a.
hey, relax. You can chill. We this is definitely people like the real you. They're getting the real you. So the other question I had, the other question that was asked is that okay? Now again, I know there's a reality in our image in our mind. So of course, in our mind, you and Arthur Baker and Jelly Bean Benitez and John Roby and Mark Berry and Hashim and Len Rascals, all you guys were like the Justice League and you hung out at this one special place and all these ideas happened. But can you tell us what New York really was like at that time when you guys were doing this?
New York was a small town, so you were either before hip hop, and we'll talk about hip hop, but before hip hop was happening, you were either into rock and roll music, jazz music. It was at the end of disco. So if you didn't like rock or jazz or classical, you kind of were into disco. And funk was around, but it really wasn't played in many clubs. You know, you might play a Grandmaster Flash record, which was disco funk-ish. You'd maybe hear Parliament, you know what I mean? But the mainstream stuff was either disco. So when we started doing this music, first of all, I was the only guy that had an 808. Everybody else couldn't afford one. Let's call Manny, get him in here, give him $50, he'll play on a record. So we kind of became friends by default. You know, oh, that guy Manny will do everything. Oh, what am I doing? I'm doing an Alicia record. I'm doing a this record or that record. So I also had one of the first samplers around, the emulator. So I was able to meet up with a lot of these people. And there was a studio called Vanguard Studios on 23rd Street, and they would rent the place out for like $50 all night from 8 o'clock at night to 8 in the morning because it was closed. And we do whole records from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. I'm telling you, we didn't even know what we were putting down on tape to a finished mix 12 hours later, you know. So it was a small town. If you needed, I'm adjusting my seat. Are you there?
No problem. Yeah, we're still here.
Sorry. I hit my phone.
No, we're still here.
If you needed a keyboard player, call John Roby. Or if you needed a saxophone player, call what's his name, McElwain. If you needed this or that, call somebody. And there was such a small group of people because a lot of people weren't doing it. It was so new. A lot of people, synthesizers were $2,000-$4,000, and wow. I didn't have that. I remember when I bought a computer that can edit, it was $12,000. I didn't have that money, and my parents didn't either. But I went to my mom and I said, I need $12,000, from Dad or wherever you got it, to buy something for my music. And she said, no way. And I said, I'm gonna go to hell. I said, if you don't give me the money for this piece of equipment, I'm going to become a male prostitute and sell drugs and get the money that way. And she said, I think I'm going to speak to your father. And guess what? I got the money. But synthesizers and those sort of things, a lot of people went. There were like hippie places where you can go and they had like somebody synthesizing. You pay $5 or $10 and go in, and you could patch up some sounds and maybe record it to a cassette tape or something. So there wasn't a lot of stuff around then. And I happened to have, a Prophet 5, an 808, a Pro 1. I don't even know how I got the money for it. Come to think of it, I was doing porn soundtracks for a little money. I was doing like a fashion show. People were doing poetry, and I was sitting back there and doing like synthesizer sounds and chill lo-fi beats, with my, and they were reading poetry, and I was like, oh, this is boring. I hope they don't rip me off and I make the $50. I could go home.
Wow.
So that's what it was like. There were no computers, no sequencers. It was all done by hand. We had to lay sequences in. My 808 put out a trigger, 6 simple synthesizers. If you listen to the lyrics of the song, it put out a pulse that drove my Pro 1 sequencer. So I write da 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 da, and you would program on the drum machine on the rim shot da 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 da, and that little pulse would come out and advance the sequencer to the next note, and you'd have da 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 da. And that I could lay down the drums in that sequencer. But if you want to lay down another line on top of it, we'd lay down. You'd have to start it. They'd start recording, and after a bunch of bars would fall out of sync, and then you would have to rewind the tape and punch it back in again. And we did layers and layers and layers and layers of this stuff. Now it's all synchronized by computer, and you just, you put it in your computer and it's done. But it was a small town. It was organic. It was by hand. There were no rules because nobody had done this stuff before. We were in the woods,
Wow.
And just trying to figure it out,
That's amazing, man.
We heard stuff. Georgia Moroder was a very big influence in Kraftwerk because all their timing and their sequencers were tight. And we wanted to get that sound. And the only way to get that sound back then was to lay stuff in by hand. I don't have it here. It's in my storage unit. But I have Georgia Moroder's sequencer that he used for I Feel Love and that whole album E=MC², because as a synthesizer guy, E=MC² was a major breakthrough. It was disco music. There was no street sounds back then. And he got, I think, 8 or 12 of those things, and he programmed a double-sided album. That's why it's a continuous mix, and just put the tape recorder and record and hit play. But that stuff you have to program with hexabinary code. So it was 1 to 9, then it was like A0, A1 to A9, and then B0. And each one represented a note or a pulse to run a synthesizer. And I remember I tried to program it, and it took me, like 12 hours to do. Like I was playing with I Feel Love to see how they did it. And I thought, I got to go to sleep. I can't take it. Don't shut it off because it's gone. And then when I came back into my little room that I had in my studio, my dog came in, tripped over the wire, and it was all gone. Because there's no way to back it out, right?
Wow.
So, old school. And a lot of people say, oh, man, I wish I was there in the old school. You're so lucky. I'm like, no, it was a nightmare. You're hearing these sounds, which you can get virtual instruments and recreate it, but the process was painful, painful. So
Wow.
I'm happy for my Apple computer,
Now, with Georgia Moroder, there's a song that we play of his that from the soundtrack, the Midnight Express, The Chase.
Oh yeah, sure. I just redid that, by the way. It's
I'm gonna have to listen to that.
Yeah, I did. If you get on, I think if you get on Spotify, you can hear it. Midnight Express.
I will definitely listen to it.
Yeah,
download it.
And I pretty much copied it.
Yeah, Roy. We used to enjoy that boom, 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 and that all the little things. Again, capturing the essence of
I wonder if
sound.
I can call it up. Let me see if I can. You can keep talking. I'm going to try to see if I can get it on my.
That'd be great.
On my thing here.
And by the way, people, the reason why I have not played any of Man Parrish's songs in this video, even though I'm interviewing the man who actually composed and arranged this music, if I play it, Unidisc will shut down my video.
Not even Unidisc. So if any of you guys heard of something called Shazam, and you hold up your phone and it listens, that algorithm is on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, any of these public spaces. And anytime you upload music, they put it through that, and they can identify the music, and it's not your. I fight, and I think that's my music. You can't take my music. I have the right to put up my music, and I have to go through this whole process where they have to review it for 30 days, and they take down my video. It's really crazy. Let me see if I can pull this up. Keep talking.
Yeah, but that, I had talked to Man Parrish about, sometimes as DJs we do mixes, and if we put them up on YouTube, I know it's like I was talking about the music of Strictly Rhythm Records. Like if I'm playing the Don, the Horn song or something, if I have any Strictly Rhythm music on my mix, they'll shut it down. I can't put the mix up, or they'll block out this portion of time when their song is playing, which I was like, that's a real crappy thing to do because we're the guys. Oh, there we go.
There's actually a video for it if you go to Man Parrish Music on YouTube.
Right, we're going to do that.
I'm going to fast forward this. I'm going to fast forward again.
I like that. You got it. I like that.
That's off of an album I call Art or Pop. I also did Situation.
Oh, by Yaz? Oh, okay.
I wish I could plug this in so you could hear the high quality. The bass is right through your chest. I use vocoder because I can't sing on this. This is off of my Art or Pop album. I'm going to fast forward it.
Okay.
And I also did.
Oh, you did Axel F?
Yeah. And I also did Children. Bring back some memories for some people. I'm going to fast forward this. And a lot of you guys remember this one. Come on, play.
Oh, you got a nice IOU. Okay.
That's 8.
I see.
So I took all these 80s tracks and I read with them. I've got Don't You Want Me Baby, Chains of Love, a song called Moscow Disco, which wasn't big here, but I absolutely love it.
It was very big in Chicago, my friend. Moscow Disco.
Really? Moscow Disco?
Oh, we played the hell out that song.
I mean, I got everything, including the train.
Oh, yeah, we played the hell out. Moscow Disco was a...
So it's all on this album.
Okay, everybody, go to Spotify, Amazon, wherever you buy music.
So it's 30 songs, but only the first 10 were released in January. The next 10 will be in June, and then the final 10 will be at the end of the year. Because if you release all 30, you kind of get lost. So we're doing 10, 10, 10, and 10. And I don't know how to turn my camera around, but I don't know if you guys can see up there. That's the artwork. It's called The Art of Pop. And,
well, let me give them a little bit, man. I got it here. Let me bring it up.
Oh,
I'm not gonna play too much of it, so I get shut down.
Will it play directly through like? Not
oh yeah.
Speaker? Oh great.
Check this out. I'm gonna start with the Moscow Disco one because I'll tell you, man.
Fast forward a little bit because get into the vocal. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So they can hear it.
All right, we're gonna do. Let me get my share audio. Okay, everybody. All right, there we go. All right, let me bring me and Man Parrish out of it for a second. We're gonna listen to music like DJs like we did back in the day. All right, so I'm gonna sit us down for a second and I'm gonna play this.
Oh, cafe usually so mild. Tonight sound is really wild. All the boys look super chic. All the songs are fantastique. has made its way. Automatic rhythms play, invading the world around. An
Electronic dancing sound.
I don't want you to get hit with a copyright.
All right. Let me stop before I get lawsuits.
Yeah. I mean, I did Tainted Love, Just Can't Get Enough, Spin Me Right Round, Moscow Disco, Sweet Dreams Are Made of This, Don't You Want Me Baby, Fame, Venus. We did the Ramones Wanna Be Sedated like a rock band. There's no synthesizer, just guitars and, you know, like punk stuff. Situation Yazoo Video Killed the Radio Star, Axel F, the Georgia Moroder that I played, Robert Miles Children. I did Michael Jackson's Shake Your Body Down to the Ground, which is really came out great. And that's something you don't really mess with a Michael Jackson track unless you could do it. But I'm really proud of it. A lot of these are not out yet. Will be out, you know, later in the year. But the first 10 of them are there. IOU, Relax, The Visitors by ABBA, which I love. We did Madonna's Vogue. And in the video, we took the original Vogue video. And every time Madonna showed up, I had this fat, I can't say fat, he'll kill me. This fat drag queen dressed up like Madonna with the whole hair and the corset. So it was the original, you know, people voguing. And then when it cut to Madonna, it was him doing it, but it looked like a morbidly obese Madonna, you know, in the cut into the video. It was hysterical. That's up on Man Parish Music. There's videos for a lot of this, which I did myself. What else? Prince's Kiss, Never Ending Story, Warm Leatherette. Kraftwerk the Model, there's a video for that. Supernature, Flashdance, MacArthur Park, and I'm still working on It Takes Two. Think Rob Bass and Easy Rock because I got a rhyme on it. So yeah. So what have I been doing? I've been a little busy. Plus I got a whole new album that's not even part of this. I got another 15 songs coming out pretty soon. So you know I stay busy.
I want my people to go to YouTube. Follow Man Parish Music so you can hear his songs on his channel as opposed to someone uploaded.
Man Parish Artist, because I got locked out of my Man Parish because I couldn't figure out my password, and it was for an email account that I no longer have. So I had to do Man Parish, and I put Artist. So I got Man Parish Artist on YouTube, Instagram, and if I do something, I always post it up there first. You know what I mean?
Okay. So if you
can't do a friend request, then just follow me because I'm at my maximum. But yeah, totally. And people can IM me, and usually I'm on every couple of days, but I'll answer people's questions or hook them up or help them out or whatever I could do, I'll do.
Amazing. Well, I'm glad that you did. I'm gonna download the music because, like I said, you did some songs that we all love. We love in Chicago. Moscow Disco has been. I think it came out in '79, so I was like 9 when it came out. I remember hearing it. It was another one of those records I begged my mother to go get, and she'd go get me. I was like the only 10-year-old with a 12-inch version of Trans Europe Express and Moscow Disco. You know, my little music.
How cool is that? Yeah.
Well, my mom loved music as much as I did. That's where I got the love from her. So a lot of this
in
stuff.
the old days, I was telling people in the old days, you got 4 or 5 cents every time it's played on the radio. Now you get 0.025 cents every time it's streamed on Spotify. Better than nothing, but you don't make money off of sales because nobody buys MP3s, and you don't make money off of streaming because it doesn't pay. So kind of like this is done for love, you know. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to be the next, biggest thing. I'm 62 years old, you know what I mean? So I got, I'm doing it because I love doing it, and I can't stop. Bebop, no, I can't stop doing it. I just can't stop doing it, Hey ho,
yeah.
It's in me, So.
Well, I mean that's great, man, and we'll talk a little bit more about the music in a little bit. What I do want to do is I'm going to put up our little fundraiser page so you guys see what it is, where it's at. All right. I'm going to share this screen with you guys. And this is, again, for those of you who love Man Parish's music, those of us who have all those copies, this is the fundraiser page. We're trying to get 10,000. All right.
I'm totally blown away by what you're doing. I mean, there's a part of me says I don't deserve this, and I feel funny. But listen, I mean, I'm struggling to buy insulin. I'm diabetic. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
I won't say no, but
we can't have that. Like I said, we're going to start getting around.
that's why I'm hoping I can give something back, like some tracks or something like that.
Well, we
And,
appreciate, and I appreciate the fact that you're, for those who donate, they'll get tracks. But let's be real. I mean, we've all seen um, some of our greats, like Colonel Abrams. We saw him pass away when he was broke and didn't
I
have
didn't meet
anything.
Frankie Knuckles until the very end, and we were
Yes.
both playing a 2-floor venue. I was playing upstairs, he was playing downstairs, and I finished because everybody went downstairs towards the end of the night, and I went, Frankie, going, yeah. I said, man, Parrish. He goes, oh my God, you're a legend. I said, me, you're a legend. We hugged. It was like, wow, we're first meeting up. And then like shortly after that, he passed away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was great to meet some of the greats.
So people, let's not give the people that we love, let's not give them their flowers after they're gone. Okay, what we want to do.
Wow, that's deep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Let's
Wow.
it's always,
Wow.
I want to see, we don't want people, hopefully 30, 40 years from now when you're gone, it's still, we don't want people, if I had known. Well, now I'm telling you,
I'm
we're
hoping
going to.
for 30, 40 years. I'm
Yeah.
fighting diabetes right now, and I'm on this thing called intermittent fasting, and I lost 21 pounds in 2 weeks. I've got a glucose monitor that tells me where my blood sugar is, and I've got an insulin pump on me, and my insurance doesn't cover it. It's like this thing's like $300 and something a month, and that's like $4 something, and my Social Security is $150. It's like that. What do I got to do here? I'm too old to be a hoe.
And that's hopefully you don't got to go that route.
Here's the other side of it is, if you can't do it, you can't do it. I'm not asking. I don't want to guilt shame or throw a trip on somebody. If you got it, I could definitely use it. But if you can't, that's okay. You're still cool with me, and all that kind of stuff. But if you do, thank you.
Well,
and I hope I can return something like a mix or something that you haven't heard, or an access to something as a way of saying thank you.
Well, we appreciate it, but like I said, most of us, all we got to do is skip one of those value meals. We'll be all right. A value meal we probably don't need. When I talked to Man Parrish a couple weeks ago, we were on the phone for like 2.5 hours, and we did talk about diet and health and stuff. So I appreciate it because, we're all getting older, and diet is, and with this COVID thing, we all know how important health is. So,
and we also talked about some very heavy stuff too, which I hope we could maybe talk about.
And now we're going to talk a little bit, like I said, some of the heavy stuff we talked about. All right, we all know the hit records you made and all the stuff that happened, but you also told me some stuff. You have been through sex trafficking. You were in a sex trafficking ring.
So I just a disclaimer: a lot of stuff you may hear from here forward could be kind of heavy and deep. I told somebody I was doing part 2 of the interview, and they said, "What are you going to do? Talk about music?" I said, "No, I want to talk about some of the stuff that I've been through, not so people could feel sorry for me." I'm actually in therapy, and my therapist said, "I'm glad you're doing this. The reason I'm doing it is if you're going through something heavy and deep, I went through some crazy, and we'll talk about it, heavy stuff. I'm hoping maybe it'll help somebody, or, hey, if he went through it, I can get through this, and, I'll be okay." So we're going to talk about some real heavy, crazy stuff, right? And I just want to let you know, it's going to be pretty much in your face, and like, how the hell did you get through all that? But, let's go. And I hope it'll help somebody and let them know that there's endurance, and if you keep out what you're doing, you'll come through stuff. So let's knock it out.
Well, first, tell me about, how you get involved with sex trafficking. You told me that you were a young man.
Right.
What exactly happened?
So let me gloss over the whole story, and then from there we could pick. I grew up in Brooklyn. Normal kind of family life in the 60s. I remember Kennedy being shot and Men on the Moon on a black and white TV. I'm that old, right? And then when I was about 8 years old, my mom just started being a little weird and funny. She had the beginnings of Alzheimer's and schizophrenia. But in those days, you didn't have mental health, so you were just a crazy family on the block kind of thing. And it became really bad and violent. I mean, my mother tried to tie me to a radiator. She did tie me to a radiator and turn up the steam, and I managed to wiggle loose. She would chase me around the house with rope and broomsticks. I remember my sister was a baby, and I got under the crib and I pulled the bars of the crib down, and she was poking me like a lion you do in a cage. She'd come in my bedroom while I was asleep, and she'd say, "Manny," and I'd wake up. "What?" And she'd say, "You're not asleep. Get out of my house." And she threw me out in the snow in my underwear with no t-shirt on, just my tidy whities. And
How old were you? How old were you when this happened?
7, 8 years old.
Oh, wow.
7, 8,
Wow.
maybe 9. And it was my mother's mental illness. And in those days, the neighbors, today a child is abused, you call the cops and it's over with. Those days you didn't do that because they didn't think of that. That's just the crazy people, right? This 80-year-old woman, Mrs. Epner, across the street, used to come out, hear me crying and screaming. I have a scar. I don't know if you can see it. Right there, there on my hand. I'm trying to get enough light on it. That's where I punched my hand through the glass trying to get back in, and my mother's taking a broom and hitting my hand to stay out in the snow. And it was like 12 degrees outside, 20 degrees.
Wow.
And I was a kid. She'd come in, she'd put a blanket around me. I'd be sitting at the kitchen table, and my father couldn't deal with this, so he just would get up and go in the front of the house and watch TV. And I had a sister. My mom didn't pick on my sister. All of this was focused on me. And she'd come up behind me. She'd say, you know how loved you are, and we really love you. And I go, oh, okay. And I went, oh, what's going to happen now? And she'd just tip my chair over. My head would hit the ground. She'd pull me into the bathroom and say, look, on the tile, you cut holes in the tile with my bobby pins, and you color them in with my eyebrow pencil. And I'm looking, and I'm like, what the fuck? I don't see anything. And then she'd smash my head against the tile, and I'd bleed and sit on the floor and cry. And then it got worse and more violent. She chased me with an hot iron once. And the house started to fall apart and became like when you see on the Hoarders TV shows. But we didn't have dirt. It was just piles. She'd wash laundry and fold the socks on the kitchen table and leave them there. And then, the newspaper, instead of throwing it out, it piled up, and there were paper bags piled up, and it wasn't dirt. It was just clutter everywhere because she mentally fell apart. But as a child, I don't understand that at 8, 9, 10 years old. And then at 10, I was growing so fast. I'm 6'4". My mother thought I was going to be like Andre the Giant, really, really, really tall, right? And she took me to, I can't say the name of it because we sued them. And part of the thing is I keep my mouth shut. I could tell the story, but I can't tell where it was. But it was a famous case in New York. Took me to a growth doctor at a hospital, and I remember the first time I went. My mother, he said, well, I'm going to take Manny inside and come back about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. And he held my hand and we walked in. And the first thing he did is he had me take off my clothes, stand against the wall. And he took pictures of me naked, of my crotch and my whole body, and turn around and spread your cheeks and show your butthole with Polaroid camera. And he put it in his drawer. And then he said, come on over here. And he pretended to be writing. I sat on his lap. And I could tell he had an erection in his pants because I was sitting on the lap with the erection. And he put his hand around my waist and was fondling my junk, and I'm 10 years old. And then I had to get up on the bed, and he said, you have to masturbate because you have to learn how to be a man. And if you masturbate, it's going to make the hormones. So I was there for 3 years thinking, I didn't know I was a kid. I was sexually abused by this doctor. He put fingers where the sun don't shine because I couldn't get hard and excited. And if you can't do it, I'll do it for you. You know what I mean? And that got, it's just a doctor, and you're a 10. I was between 10, 12, and 14. I think I went back every year or 2 years, whatever. It was 2 or 3 years. And it got to be such a head trip. And my mother's abuse that I ran away from home. So one day I said, I got to get out of here because I'm going to die. But imagine if anybody has kids, just think of what your kid was like at 14. How do they go out in a world like New York City? I got off the train at 42nd Street, old pimps and hookers. I walked up 8th Avenue to Central Park. And I'm sitting there on a bench. Turns out it's the gay cruising area in Central Park. My luck, right? And who the hell's going to pick up a 14-year-old kid but a pedophile? I didn't know what a pedophile was, and said, well, are you all alone? I'm like, yeah, what's the matter? I know my mom, and, I got this bad situation. Oh, well, why don't you come to my place? I can give you a place to stay. And at first it was like, here's some milk and cookies, little boy. And then it was like, all right, time to pay the rent. That went into, we're going to take a trip today, and we're going to go to my friend Bob's house or my friend Michael's house or Charles's house or something. And when we went to these places, they were old. This guy was 30. I was 14, but there'd be like a 50-year-old guy and 8, 9, 10, 12-year-old boys that didn't even have hair on their pubic hair, some of them. And we'd all get in bed and it was like playtime. And I thought, well, okay, I guess this is what you do when you, I was gay. I knew that, I guess gay older men look after younger boys until they can get on their own. I didn't understand this. And if I said no, and I did once or twice, I was threatened to be out on the street. And I thought, all right, what's a little fooling around? But I didn't realize how damaging it was to my spirit, to my mind. It made me neurotic and frightened, and I had no security. I was adopted. So my home was shattered. I didn't trust doctors and people of authority because they raped me. And now I'm with an older guy out on the street, could never go home. And I had to put up with this or be thrown out on the street. I remember going to Washington, D.C., and there was I guess he was a senator. He lived in DuPont Circle, which I hear is like really fancy. He had a whole brownstone. He had 2 king-size beds pushed together with custom sheets. And I think there were like 12 boys, and the both of them sitting on the edge of the bed watching us fool around. You know what I mean? I remember I was in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia, and I couldn't take it anymore. And I got up. Where are you going? I'm going to the door. He goes, I have the door hot wired that if you touch it, you're going to burn your hand. Go ahead, put your hand on the doorknob. You'll see what happened. You're going to burn your hand, and I'm not taking you to the hospital if you touch that doorknob. And I was so, right now you probably say, all right, kid, you were stupid. But this had been going on for so long that you start to believe it. It's like the battered wife syndrome. After a while, you kind of feel sorry and you kind of believe. And this guy was mentally ill. He was into the aliens and chariots of the gods. And he used to say, go in the bedroom and close the door. And he would, I have to make a communication to the people on Alpha Centauri. I'm like, what? And he put the radio on static and talked to the radio. He was mentally ill, right? But I didn't know all this stuff. And at first you go, all right, this guy's crazy. But after 6 months of it, you're going, well, what if he is talking to? I was 16 years old or something like that, and we were so malnourished and I was 6'4" and I had a 26-inch waist. I was 145 pounds. Like I look like like somebody from, starving country, like one of those kids. It was really, really horrible and stressful. It got so bad that I would lie on the bed and shake because my nervous system was so shattered. I didn't know what was real and what wasn't. I was hearing voices. I remember lying in bed and hear people talking. And I thought, he said, oh, you're just tuning into the spirits. Don't worry. I was in crisis as a young child. So we went out to a place called Fire Island. And I remember one day we were dancing at one of the dance clubs, and this woman, straight woman, she used to come over from the other community because the gay clubs had all the cool music, you know what I mean? And her name was Dottie, and she was an astrologer. And we were dancing on the dance floor, and I said, what do you do? She goes, I'm an astrologer. And I said, oh, astrologer, you know about the space people. She goes, what do you mean? And I said, oh, Bob talks to the space people, and we go around to all these other guys' houses with these other boys, and it's all part of this thing. And she said, can you come to my boat? They rented a boat. They used to park their boat there for the summer in like a state park. She said, can you come to my boat tomorrow? Don't tell them that you're coming here. Tell me about it because I'm really interested. I thought, okay, great. I remember going there, telling her the story. Her jaw dropped. I told her everything, about the boys and the talking to the space people. She said, your friend is very, very sick and is going to hurt you. And she says, I want you to go back home to your mother. I said, no, I'm not going back home. She says, it's the only other place you can go. Get back there. You can call me anytime you want. Just get back there because you're in danger. So I wound up, he used to have us have a bag packed underneath the bed because the space people were coming and we were all going to go to Central Park and board the spaceship and go off.
Oh my God.
Right? I mean, this was crazy stuff. But as a kid, I'm in therapy for this now. It took 50 years. As a kid, I couldn't comprehend what sexual abuse was. I didn't have the neurons in my brain develop long enough to realize that something's wrong. I mean, I did realize it was wrong, but after being brainwashed and told over and over and every day or every 2 or 3 days, you start to believe it. I didn't have the tools to outthink it and go, this guy's crazy. So she said, take that suitcase and Saturday at 2 o'clock, I'm going to call your parents. I gave her the number. And they're going to come. The doorbell's going to ring. Just buzz them in. And the doorbell rang, and he goes, "Who's that?" And I said, "Oh, a friend." He goes, "You don't have any friends. I know all your friends. I approve all your friends." He goes, "I'm your legal guardian and your ward. I went to court, and you're my possession. Who's coming up?" And they opened the doors. My father and my mother behind him. My father was tough, and Manny, come on, we're going. He goes, "You can't take him. He's my child." I mean, this is how crazy this guy was, telling my parents that they don't own, they have no rights to me and stuff like that. And he said, "Manny, go get that suitcase and let's get out of here." And I ran out. And as I was running out, he punched holes in the walls, and we had a parakeet, and he broke its neck and threw it across the room. And he was so freaked out that his little prized possession was leaving. Right.
Wow.
So I went home to Brooklyn. My mother was mentally ill. It was really rough. And I wound up leaving again. I stayed on a bunch of people's couches. We all got together, 6 of us, and got a loft on 38th Street between 5th and 6th Avenues. And about 6 or 7 months into being there, I woke up one morning. I said, "Something's terribly wrong." And I went into the front. It was a loft, and one couple had the front, and I was in the middle, and there was other people in the back. And I woke up, something's wrong. And I walked in the front, and the guy had committed suicide. He swallowed a whole bunch of pills, aspirin, and stuffs to kill himself. And I called 911, and it was in the middle of Manhattan. There was traffic, and the cars couldn't get out of the way. And he's like foaming at the mouth and seizing. So he died in my hands as a friend. So
Wow.
That time I was maybe 18 or 19. You know what I mean? So it was crazy. Crazy. I'm a gay guy. I have no issues with it. But I was in bars. I was a pretty boy that maybe looked like I was 19. So I was definitely, as we jokingly say, queer bait. You know what I mean? Guys were on me.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't understand why people would say, "Oh, you're really nice. Why don't you come home and hang out with me?" I mean, there was, obviously, I'm a teenager. There's the horny side of it. But they would be like, "Oh, you could stay overnight." And I think, well, this person's kind to me. I want to stay here. This is better than where I am now. You know what I mean? And then they'd be, "All right, get out." I got my rocks off. See you later. So mentally, it really destroyed me. My mother used to tell me when I was born, not when I was born, when I grew up, that I was the angel of death, and when people die, it's my fault.
Wow.
I mean, you don't tell that to a kid, but that was her mental illness. So I'm letting people know. I tell this story. I've been through, much more than that. My sister died in my arms. I was a male prostitute because I didn't have money. Somebody said, "You're starving. Look how skinny you are. If you go up to this bar, someone's going to give you money and fool around with them." And I wound up, I didn't know guys were making like $50, $100. And guy comes up to me and said, $20. We go back to his house, fool around. He gives me 50. And as I walk down the stairs, I knock on his door. "Excuse me, sir, you gave me too much money." He said, "I'm going to give you a job. Instead of doing this, you're not going to survive. I want you to run errands for me." He was one of the biggest dealers in New York. And I used to take, an envelope with thousands of dollars of cash every 3 or 4 days down to a pharmacy. And the pharmacist would give me a bag. And then it were giant bottles of Quaaludes and Blackbirds and all this stuff. And I'd bring it up to Frankie, and he'd give me $20, $30, $40, $50 for being the mule. You know what I mean? One day he said, "Manny, come up. I need your help, with some stuff." And I thought I was doing one. And I'm 17, 18. You know what I mean? So he said, "Come on up. Something's going on. I need your help." He was also a speed addict, and he used to have me come up and help him find his vein in his arm because he couldn't, get the syringe in, And I didn't do drugs because if I did coke, I got paranoid. If I did smoke weed, I got paranoid. If I drank, I fell asleep. So here I am, totally normal, totally straight on all this, dealing with all this. I couldn't go home and smoke a bowl and relax or have a drink or it was incredible. I was so broken and destroyed. So anyway, come in, and he said, "I'm going to need you to help me. There's a couple of guys coming over." Knock on the door, and this was the late 70s. These guys, these mafia guys, these 2 big gorillas came in they had like the blue and the lime green leisure suits on, the polyester leisure, real like a Goodfellas kind of guys. They come in, and they all had a couple of paper bags in their hand, and they turned the paper bags upside down on I was sitting on the couch on the floor, and the couch. And Frankie said, "These are all, separate the bad 20s from the good 20s. They were counterfeit money." And they had printed them so fast, some of them were misaligned, and we had to make a good pile and a bad pile. And I'm up on the couch, and they're on the floor, and they're counting all this. And about 15 minutes later, there's a knock on the door, and the guys pull guns. And Frank said, no guns, no guns. Well, who's at the door? Who's at the? Oh, it's probably one of these hustler kids looking for money. Let me go answer the door. And it was like one of those like Laurel and Hardy movies where they opened the door and 20 DEA agents rushed in. So it was like one of those things.
Wow.
And they're pinning me down on the couch, and they're handcuffing everybody, and they go to handcuff me. And Frankie says, leave the kid alone. He doesn't know anything. He's just a cheap male prostitute. And I was like, cheap male prostitute, how dare you? You know what I mean? But he was like, shut up. You know what I mean? So I had to testify against this mafia guy. We went to court, and I didn't know. I grew up in a mafia neighborhood in Brooklyn, but any of the guys in this courtroom over, can you see anybody who was there that day? Because they all claimed they were there. Oh yeah, that guy right over there. Well, it was like, you know, but I was a kid. So there's a lot more that went on, you know what I mean? But that's some of it in a nutshell. And for anybody, you know, I was neurotic. I had panic attacks, afraid of doctors, afraid of people with authority. I wouldn't get my teeth fixed. I wouldn't get health care. I lived what I call New York City underground because I was afraid of people in the streets. You know, I became agoraphoric at one time, which means you stay at home. I was afraid to leave the house for months and months on end. But of course I would be. You know, I didn't know that this is a damage. You know, this is what happens to damaged people. So my therapist said something really interesting. Part of the deal when I was raped by this doctor for 3 years, that they promised to get me help, therapy. And I was in, what do you call it, like crisis, trauma therapy, adult sexual and trauma therapy. And, you know, I put this in my, oh, it wasn't that bad. It was just sex. And, oh, why don't you just get over it? You know, here you are and you're normal. But I wasn't normal. I kept thinking people are going to come in my house at night and hurt me. And I kept having dreams of a dark house with a long hallway. And there's a man at the end of it that was going to hurt me. So therapy, my therapist said, you realize how lucky you are. And this is, I'm talking to people that are listening to this right now who don't think they have strength to pull through. She said, look at what you went through. She said, most people would either be drug addicts, alcoholics, they would have killed themselves, or they're in straitjackets. The fact that you're sitting here and you could talk and function and drive here and drive home means you have resilience and you have strength. So when you're in these situations or this stuff happens to your life and you're beat down, whether it's not getting paid from the music business or you're in an abusive relationship or you had a bad, you know, childhood growing up, or you feel like the world's against you and you can't make it because you'll never get it. The word for today is resilience. You know what I mean? Be resilient and eyes on the prize and stick to what you're doing. And sooner or later, maybe 50 years later, but sooner or later, it's going to pay off. You know, because if you wind up fighting, if you wind up having an attitude, if you wind up being angry, you're only kind of adding to that bad energy that's around you. You know what I mean? You're probably coming off as an asshole. You know what I mean? So why do friends leave me? And I can't have my girlfriend, my boyfriend, whatever, have bad relationships. Well, maybe you're broken inside, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with being broken. And maybe you can deal with it, maybe you can't, but there's a way out of it. And I'm not going to say love is the answer. It's not about that. It's just about not being afraid to search inside yourself. A lot easier said than done, and it takes a long time. But not abusing other people, not abusing your pets, those are signs that you've got something going on. But resilience and strength. And I tell you this, sometimes I just want to, just like everybody else, I'm gonna just take a gun and shoot myself in the head, because why me? I can't take this anymore. Like one other thing, but then I got to remember, I got to be strong, and I do it now. Whether it's social, whether it's racial, whether it's income, whether it's career, you got to stay strong. You got to believe in yourself when nobody else does. And I'm hoping that message will come out. So I have something called Man Parrish Stories, STORIES on YouTube. And I tell a lot of these stories, and of course they're fun, and you listen to them and you laugh. And Freddie Mercury tried to pick me up in a bar. I managed the Village People with Cheers. Well, I thought, who's this buck-toothed queen who thinks he's Freddie Mercury trying to be all in my face? You know what I mean? And it was Freddie Mercury, and everybody's like, "Ooh, you're giving him fever." You know what I mean? That's Freddie Mercury. And I'm like, I don't know who this queen is. You know what I mean? But the stories are funny. But there's an underlying current of sadness underneath there. And I'm not meaning it to be sad. I do them and I talk like this to show I've got strength, and I'm no different than you, right? I'm not special man Parrish. I've always said that. You know, I'm not Prince. I'm not, Michael Jackson. I'm just a dude trying to get through the day like everybody else. I happen to do music. I can't read or write, but I happen to do it. And some people noticed. But if I could do this, and I only have 4 months of high school, I ran away from home. I got thrown out of high school performing arts, so they did Fame the same day as Freddie Prinze. And that's another funny story you should listen to, because I called the principal a big fat dyke before I ran out. I said, "We know you're eating Mr. Shine's pussy up on the 4th floor, everybody in the school." I was a tough cookie, but if I could do it, you could do it. So if stuff sucks right now, you have the way to pull out of it. And I know you think, how am I ever going to do this? How am I ever going to do this? But if I could do it without an education and being as broken as I am, you could do it. You probably had a better home life, and you probably have friends that support you. I didn't even have friends, because after 3 months, people would leave because I was burning them out. I was just a mess and too much to be around. I was a hot mess, too much to be around. And my friend said, "Oh, that was my friend for 7 years." I said, 7 years? He goes, "Yeah." I said, "I don't usually every 3 months I get new friends." He goes, "Yeah, because you're hard to be around. You're just too much. You're too intense. You're a mess." And then I realized, I may have a problem here. You know what I mean? So if you have friends, if you have people that love you, even if you don't, it's all in you. You got to believe it. And now I'm going to go outside and walk on water, if you don't mind.
Well, man, I'm going to tell you, Manny, I won't go into detail, but we've had some dark times. I think a lot of people can relate, and not trying to bring us back to your music, but I can remember some times as a teenager when I had a whole lot of real negativity going on, and I would literally go in my room, turn off the lights, turn on my little turntables and my little lights going on with the equalizer and everything. But a lot of times it was your songs I was playing I found them deep and soothing and a place to get away. And your music became like a place. It wasn't so much, it was a sound, but it was a place.
Okay, same thing happened to me, and that was my place where I went. And a lot of religions call that meditation. So if there's anybody out there, it doesn't have to be my music, anybody's music. If you have your go-to, that's a good place to start to find calm. And from there, sometimes people are so damaged or so screwed up, they just need to take a breath. And if that's where you go to take your breath, my music, somebody else's music, then that's the first step of getting control of your life. Go have that place. Don't let anybody else in there. And it may not be a physical place. It may be a mental place. Maybe you put on your headphones, your earbuds, and you close your eyes around bullets that are going off. You know what I mean? But that's the place to start to find calm and peace and make things better in your life. And it doesn't happen instantly. And if you do, and you think it is, you're going to set yourself up for failure and you'll never do it again. That's a good place to start, and stick with it. And from there, it'll grow and things will change and get better.
Wow.
It's amazing. True, because I've been through it. I can say it's true because I've been through it. I'm not reading it from a book or a Bible and telling you, passing it through. I'm telling you from somebody who's been there through firsthand experience. That's what it's about. And I'm not perfect and I'm not healed. 3 nights ago, I had a panic attack. I woke up in the middle of the night and I got to get out of here. I got to get out of here. But then I realized, I'm having panic attacks. Oh, right. Adrenaline is released in my body. I have a fight or flight syndrome, so I want to run. But if I breathe and get oxygen, I can calm myself down by almost getting high from too much air. You get dizzy. That'll bring that down. And, oh, right, the adrenaline's going to be in my body for half hour, so I'm going to feel really jittery. Don't freak out because you're making more adrenaline, creating the cycle. So I've learned things, maybe that other people haven't, but I'm still broken. I'm still damaged, but like diabetes, I'm managing it. So if you're looking for perfection, you're looking to make it go away, you're looking for things to heal. If you're broken, you're probably always going to be broken, but you may learn how to deal with it and may learn how to manage it. And I'm doing this because I hope maybe there's a couple hundred people watching, that one person out there that I'm reaching right now. It's so worth it for me to do it. One life at a time kind of situation. I'm not a preacher. I'm not going to go on a road trip and do this from a stage and charge people $100. Although I should. I suffered so badly. I can't stand to see people suffer. And that's why I can't have an attitude and be man Parrish like Prince or Madonna or the dude that did the music, because I don't feel that I'm better than anybody else. I'm just a guy that happened to do some music that people like. The moment somebody walks in the room, yeah, I'm DJ or I'm producer or I'm artist so-and-so, I shut down. I'm like, why would you walk in a room and think you're better than anybody else? We all squat to pee. Well, not all of us, but a lot of us do. Everybody's fart smells. We're all the same. You know what I mean? So I'm no different than anybody else. And I don't care how famous you are.
You need to do a seminar for Chicago house music DJs.
Why are they that messed up?
Oh, we got some people that's some divas, man. That
that's okay. I mean, those are insecurities, and you start to realize that right away in other people. When people are divas or have attitudes, you go, okay, underneath that there's a person, and I don't let that in my face and have a reaction to it. You know what I mean? I let that pass through me. And okay, there's a hurt person here, or something happened that made them like this. I'm okay. Let's go deeper. A lot of people say, how could you be friends with that person? They're fucked up. They're crazy. I'm like, because underneath that, there's a human being. And that's what's important to me. I'm going to stop crying now. I gotta
Manny, that's very deep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's very deep, but it's very true. A lot of times, we lose patience.
We throw away the person, right. We look at the shell. And that's, that's what's going on right now. We had a bad generation of me, and kids from the me. So, I don't want to sound like that old dude, like, these kids today are crazy. It's not about that. I mean, when I grew up, we were crazy. I was dropping acid at 14 compared to my mother's generation. You know what I mean? So I was the crazy, but and these kids that are screwing up now are all gonna, as they get older, like we all did. We all did drugs and had crazy sex in the doorway window while 3 people watched. Or whatever the crazy thing you did, you kind of balanced out. You know what I mean? These kids will today, but if you follow life very simply, and I've heard a lot of people say this. It's all about, some people say it's all about love. And what's love? It's just respecting another person because they're alive, and even an animal. Like if there's a fly in the house, I won't kill it. I'll let it out the window because it's got just the right to be in here looking for food that I do. You know what I mean? So I am not on any kind of a level, animal, plant, whatever. I'm even with everybody else and try to treat it like that. We got any questions? You looking at questions?
No, I'm just listening to what you're saying, because I'm actually learning some things, regarding not throwing away a person and dealing with the show. Well, I mean, wisdom is wisdom. I think I told you where I work. Yeah, we had a gentleman that killed himself. We all people came out to the parking lot, and he had shot himself. And so now we have this push in my occupation. There's higher suicide rates, and we're really trying to tell people we try to look past what's going on, what's there, and see what's going on.
Or do you reveal what you do?
Well, yeah, I mean, most of you all know.
Can you talk about that kid that you told me on the phone that had mental problems, and he came out of the where he was, and you helped him get on a bus, and you followed up and stuff? Because if you guys are listening, Richard is not just a DJ; he's a human being. Do you tell people what you do? Can I say what you do?
Sometimes, yeah, sometimes I do. I mean, most of them know I work in law enforcement.
He does law enforcement, but there's been people in his career that he saw. There was this kid that shouldn't have been in lockdown, and this kid was mentally off. You know what I mean? And they basically threw him away. And when they let him out, Richard, had, I don't know, were you assigned to escorting him or something? He didn't even have money, I think, for a bus, or barely, didn't know where he was going, he was like autistic or something like that. And you not only got him on that bus, you made phone calls and you followed up afterwards. And, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. A little bit of love, a little bit of compassion, you know what I mean? It goes a long, long way. And in my day, it was like, help the old lady across the street, say thank you, and hold the door. It's, now it's, I don't, whatever it is, your version of that is, it comes back with peace of mind and wisdom and life experience. So if you could, you don't have to do it every day, but once in a while, oh shit, look, that person really needs help. Can I hold your bag, ma'am? Without running away with it. You know what I mean? Don't let the crazy get in there. Do something nice and see what happens, and you're going to feel good. And if you do it twice, you're going to feel great. And you do it a whole bunch of times, you could breathe.
All right. Well, man, Manny, that was some deep stuff, and hopefully
we went.
Hopefully that helps somebody. Like I said, many of us have known people that have committed suicide. We've known people that couldn't handle it. So again, it's just important for us to pay attention to those around us and to look past the bolster or whatever and look at what's really going on.
And there are people looking at this that are going, oh, please, drama queen or whatever. And that's okay. Maybe they have stuff in their life that they don't want to look at now. And, when you're ready, it's there. You can go through. Hey, nobody says you have to go through life and fix your problems and stuff like that. But I'm tired of my problems being in my face because I'm not enjoying life. My therapist said, when I first went in there about a year and a half ago, she goes, what's your goal? And I said, I've lived in the dark mentally for so long with fears and neuroses. I was smart enough to know that. I said, I want to just come out in the sunlight and breathe and watch the sun come up and down and not have to, oh my God, the sun's coming up. What do I got to do? I didn't work today. Should I have to work today? Oh shit, let me get busy. Oh, the sun's going down. Oh yeah. Am I going to have a panic attack tonight? You know what I mean? So I wanted to get purged and I still have a lot in me, but I want to purge that so I could just breathe and be. You know what I mean? So
all right. Well, so we don't end on a downer.
Yeah, let's tell some fart jokes.
Let me ask you a couple questions.
Let's tell some dick jokes.
All right. And
your mama jokes. We got to do that's old school.
But why don't you tell us? You've met some very famous people that we all have heard of. Did you ever meet Adam Ant when he was in that?
Never met Adam Ant because he was. I want to say he's like more West Coast or something like that, or
British.
Yeah, British English. So I did meet Tom Jones. And what's his name for Dead or Alive? Pete Burns.
Okay.
We had the Man to Man record. We were at the Limelight in London, and we're in the VIP room, and our record was #1 on the national charts. And somebody came up to me and said, Tom Jones wants to meet you, but he's a big homophobe, so don't say anything about gay or anything like that. And out comes this guy. He was about this tall. You know what I mean? He came barely up to my tits. You know what I mean? All leathery, from being in the sun. And he goes, who are you? And I'm thinking, you wanted to meet me? And I said, I'm Man Parrish. And what do you do? And I said, well, we have a record. Oh, yeah, what record? And I thought, what's with the attitude, bitch? And he said, I said, well, I have a song called Male Stripper. He goes, Male Stripper? And I had it. I said, yeah, it's a group called Man to Man. We're a bunch of homos and no puffs. We're a bunch of puffs and we're on the charts. And he was, oh! And Pete Burns was standing there from Dead or Alive. And he goes, I just want to let you know I'm straight. And I went, dude, you couldn't write this. This is like, am I being punked right now? I mean, this is so insane. You know what I mean? So insane. When I performed at Studio 54, I came down from the ceiling. I tell this story a lot if you were there last week. But there's an unknown girl. Madonna was my opening act. And at that time, a couple of other places too. But a couple of bodyguards came into the dressing room after the show. And they said, Michael wants to speak to you. And you probably know who I'm talking about. And I went downstairs and Michael Jackson, Studio 54 was an anniversary party. I played there twice. I played there for Fiorucci, the fashion company. And the second time I played was for George Lucas's Return of the Jedi New York opening premiere. And he asked, or his company asked, that I perform because I had a hood on and I looked like Darth Vader. I used to say I was Dorothy Vader because I was gay and I was playing on, So, but the first time I played, I came down from the ceiling, and there's a whole other story we can't get into now. And they said, Michael wants to speak to you. And I went, Michael, oh my God, the boss. Is his name Michael? I thought it was Steve Rebell. Must be one of the partners. What did I do? They're going to say, get out. You're not getting paid. You did such a bad job. And that shows you how broken I was. I did a great show. And immediately I was down on myself. I did something wrong. So that's the damage that comes. So they walk me downstairs and I'm so nervous. And I'm like, oh God, I hope I get paid. And I hope they let me back in and that kind of stuff. And we walk through the crowd in the little VIP area. And I walk up and it's Michael Jackson. He wasn't king of pop then, but he was, very well known, but a lot of well known. Henry Kissinger was there that night. He was dancing with a tranny and they had to get the tranny away from him. He didn't know it was a tranny, and they put Brooke Shields in instead. And there's a famous picture of him dancing with Brooke Shields. That was that night. Mick Jagger, Bianca Jagger, Farrah Fawcett, and Lee Majors, Liza Minnelli, Andy Warhol, who gave me my name. That's a whole other story. All these celebrities were there because it was a party, and they got in for free, and they got free Coke. That's why they went there. But Michael happened to be in town, and he went to the studio. And I walked in and I said, hello, Mr. Jackson. He goes, Michael, you call me Michael? And I said, oh, well, Michael, yeah. And he said, I like your music. And I said, well, I like yours too. He goes, really good show. And I said, oh, thank you. He goes, I just finished an album called Bad, and I have a song called Speed Demon, and I'd love for you to do a mix. And I went, I would love to do a mix. Thank you. He goes, no, that's okay. Someone will be in touch with you. And I said, okay. And then the security guards lifted me up by the shoulders and on the armpits and pulled me out. I was like, what was that? And I was like, oh yeah, right. Nobody has my number. Yeah, checks in the mail, all that kind of stuff. And about a week later, the record company got a call from Quincy Jones Q West, and they sent the master over. I think we did it at the Hit Factory, and we did hip hop bebop version of Speed Demon. And we sent it in. Quincy Jones loved it. Michael hated it. So in the vault somewhere in Sony is a hip hop bebop Boogie Down Bronx version of Michael Jackson's Speed Demon.
So anybody who works at Sony,
please dig in those vaults. It's
in the vaults.
Michael Jackson stuff there somewhere. And
get it out.
Right now, it's on digital tape, very first digital F1 tape. But if they have it, I know somebody who has a machine, and we can have it transferred to audio.
Yeah, we need to do that. Yeah. You had told me, so we were talking about when you were in England. Now, when did you meet Boy George? And what was that like?
And I'm working with Boy George's brother right now. So there was a club in New York called Area. And every month, they would completely rearrange the place. You would walk in one day, they cut a hole in the floor, they put water in they made a tank and glass over it, and there were live sharks in the tank, and you wanted to dance with. Then the next month they would fill that in, and they would put in skateboard things, and they paid people to skateboard across the dance floor. How people didn't get killed, I don't know. And then the next month it was, you walked in there with these giant hedges, and the whole place was a giant maze. And this place was known every month or two, they would completely renovate the whole inside. They'd shut for a week and completely construct a whole new thing. So one of the guys that worked there, the performing artist, he said, Boy George came in and his friend Marilyn, they're doing a quote unquote surprise birthday party for him at the Palladium in New York, which were the owners of Studio 54 and opened up the Palladium after that fell apart. And they want you to produce Spirit in the Sky, which is like an early 60s record. And Marilyn's going to present it to him on stage. And are you interested? I said, sure. He goes, George is going to call you. And yeah, whatever. So I remember about a week later, I got a phone call. Hello, this is George. And I was like, George? Oh, shit, right. Oh, yeah, right. George, yeah. Hi. Listen, we'd love to come out and we want to do this record and you will split everything, and don't worry and whatever. So I hung up the phone. I can't read or write music. I'm not a musician. I panicked. I called my friend Michael Radetsky, who worked with me on records. And I said, come out. We're going to work with Boy George. He didn't show up at 3:00 in the afternoon. My sister told everybody in the neighborhood that Boy George was coming. It looked like the opening of a club. There must have been 400 kids outside of my house waiting for Boy George to show up. And I leaned out the window and I said, George isn't coming until everybody goes away. So they all hid behind garbage cans and trees. A limo showed up. Everybody started screaming. George came into my house. I hired a recording truck and we did that song. So that's how I met George. And then some unfortunate stuff happened. My friend Michael went over to London and wound up dying. And this is a guy I worked with directly, who was my musician. He wound up dying in George's studio apartment in a drug overdose. And Michael wasn't a drug addict. So it's a story I'm not going to get into. But then George dished me to filth in his book, said I was a mutant disco singer with lukewarm success. I had no talent, no ideas, and that I retired to my kitchen, to eat food while they worked. When in fact, I was in that truck the whole time. George had been up for 2 days high. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So, he doesn't remember the stuff that I remember, like him conning me into his hotel room and trying to have sex with me, and I turned him down, and he got angry at me and then cut me off. So,
Wow.
I got stories. I got
Wow.
stories, man. I got stories.
One other question. Well, two, I wanted to give you some comments. Um, Mr. John L. Bennett on our Facebook is saying
Hey,
that
Mr. Bennett.
yeah, he's saying that and I quote, that it was brave of you and thank you for being this open. A lot of people can learn from your story. So again, I think it is a good thing that you shared your story. I know that that there's a lot of sadness, but
I'm going to say something. So for many years, I didn't think it was bad because it was just like, oh yeah, some shit happened to me, and that's it. And I didn't think it was bad until I started having problems, and then I realized it was bad, and then I said, I've got to share this. So I don't have shame because it's human life. A lot of people, when I told my story first, you cannot believe how many private messages I've got from guys, my brother, my uncle, my father, the guy down the block. They say 1 in 4 men have been sexually abused.
you don't
So
hear
if you
about that
are,
a
you're
lot.
lucky. And if you were, it depends, what your community is. If you're living in a tough area, you may not want to talk about it because, you're the fag, you know what I mean? But
Mhm.
by me talking about it, it lightened the load on my back, but it also helped other people understand. So I don't have shame in this stuff. I joke around, if you're not paying my rent, I don't give a fuck, if you like it or not. But I'm not as cold as that. But it's
Mhm.
very liberating when you can tell your shit. And I tell people, oh, tell your story. Oh, I'm nobody. I don't care. Do what I did. Hold an iPhone like I'm doing right now and tell a 5-minute story about something cool in your life and put it up on YouTube. I did Man Parish Stories. I did it for 40 days. 5-minute story. I slept with a guy from MASH. I tell that story. He picked me up, and that's a whole funny story in itself. And I tell the drug story and the Madonna story and the Boy George story and then this and that and the bad stuff too. So I think it's all about storytelling at this point, because the more
Right.
people do it, it just shows that we're all the same thing. Some people had a bad life, some people had a good life. Tell your good life story. Let it be boring, but get it out there because it helps other people.
Amen.
So
All right.
Tony said thank you. If you're typing, but thank you for saying that to me, and it's liberating. And go tell your story. Who cares if nobody listens to it? Put it up on YouTube. Someone's going to find it, and someone
Somebody will.
will hit that like button. And it's
Well,
free.
I'm gonna say this. We're coming to the close. I'm gonna have you back on at some point in a month or so, whenever you're free. I know you're busy. Hopefully, Man Parish has inspired me back then and inspires me now. There's some projects I'm gonna start to work on. There's some things I'm finishing in the political world and some things that I'm beginning in the music world. So I hope to be able to collaborate with him on
You
a
got to do
project.
your thing.
Yep.
If it's business, if it's music, if it's poetry, if it's just deep thinking on your own, do your thing. Do your thing, and you will be free.
Okay. Well, again, everybody, the go to YouTube to Man Parish Artist. Am I correct?
YouTube, it's Man Parish Artist on YouTube, but it's Man Parish Stories for the stories, Man Parish Music for the music, and the music has hip hop bebop video and some old school things and some of the new stuff that I'm doing, like Moscow Disco and all those
Yep.
videos that we just did with an iPhone and all that kind of stuff. So
Well, and the art of
it's
pop.
Man Parish Artist on Facebook and Instagram, and it's Man Parish on Twitter, manparish.com, which I haven't changed in a million years, but it's 1 N, 2 R's.
All right, and everybody, the art of pop. Go and download it. Go on to different
Well, I got a
platforms.
new one called "Make Me Famous." That's the new album coming out. Make Me
Okay.
Famous. It's a goof, obviously, "Make Me Famous."
And I'm
So,
going to share. As you do this stuff, I'm going to share. On my page, and other DJs will. And like I said, I just got the fundraiser up. It's a GoFundMe. It's on my Facebook page. I'm going to start sharing it. I know tomorrow's payday for everybody, so I'm really going to start sharing it tomorrow. I think everybody's rolling with quarters to the gas station right now. But
I just want to say thank you. If you spent time and you're still here listening to this, like I said, I try to be humble. Thank you so much for just hearing my story, and thank you. I I don't know what the numbers are. I don't care what the numbers are. If there's one person watching, thank you so much for
All right.
for tuning in.
And like I said, I'm looking forward to continue to talk to Man Parrish. Like I said, it's like like I said, I was a little 12-year-old kid listening to this music, and I finally got to meet and talk to this person. And, and so often, those of you from Chicago know there's people we love their music, and when we talk to them, we find out that they're not people that we really like. You wish you had never met them. But, this is one situation where I'm happy I met someone that not only did they live up to the image I had in my head of them as a person because of the music that I became, very familiar with. He actually exceeded everything I thought.
Oh boy, we
as
got to
a
get you help
genuine
now.
guy.
We got to put you in a straitjacket.
Well, I'm sure a few people will agree with you on that one.
Thank you so much.
All right, so we're gonna let you guys go.
Thank you,
next
everybody.
week.
Really, thank you
Yep.
so much for listening. And if I touch somebody's heart, that's a good thing. You could always get in touch with me through Facebook. I don't check it very much. I try to answer IMs when people do. If you have a question about music, synthesizers, life, I'm not a doctor, but maybe just my experience could help you, or just want to say hi, do it.
All right. Well, thanks again, everyone. Next week,
Thank
we're
you.
going to have one of the Hot Mix 5 members. Got Mike Hitman Wilson is going to come on and talk to you guys and tell you guys about his story. And man,
You're
Mike,
getting a little too famous here, mister. You're getting some good stuff on here.
Well, getting some guys. Mike Mike was one of the guys in our hometown that really got us into the DJing thing a lot. He was one of the ones who made it big from our town. Hometown boy does good. And he's done a lot of great stuff. I can't wait to talk to him. Got to spend a lot of parties with Mike. So we had a lot of fun back then. Mike was one of the guys I used to go to and get cassettes of your music when I was a breakdancer before I started DJing. So I need Boogie Down Bronx. I need it on tape, and he'd make tapes for me, him, and this guy Mike Spike there and the Reddick. So there's a lot of history from our town.
Yeah. If anybody's putting out a record and wants it mastered, if you throw $100 in to that GoFundMe, I'll master your record for you for that $100. So you just get in touch with me. You send me your WAV file, and on this computer system here, I could master stuff for digital output, MP3, and make it sound great. So I can't make if your record sucks, it'll be a great sounding record.
It's going great,
I can't guarantee a hit, but I could give you a great sounding record or a great sounding shitty record. So
you can say it was mastered by Man Parrish.
Well, if you want, go ahead. You can put that on there, whatever.
But those who donate $5, if you donate $5. Up to 20, we're going to get you a digital copy, Hip Hop Bebop, a legitimate one, not one from bootleg.
And I'm going to see if I can find, there's a 12-minute disconnect version. If I could find that, maybe we could throw that in there. I don't want to promise it, but I got to see. It's a lot of this stuff is on vinyl and gone. So if I could find it somewhere, I would include it. I don't want to take people's money for nothing. I want to give something back. You know what I mean? And,
right, and that's good. But I'm gonna tell my DJ. I don't
want to be homeless again.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell my DJ friends and producer friends, hey, like I said, y'all know how many copies of Hip Hop Bebop and Boogie Down Bronx you got bogus. You got them bogus, so pay up. All right, so you guys have a nice night.
Thank you.
I will talk with you all later. Thank you, Mr. Man Parrish.
See, I'm a producer. I can't just let it end. I got to fade out with my finger.
All right. All right, I'll talk to you guys next Thursday at 7. God bless.